You know, in the entire history of mathematics, there are very few stories as strange, or as tragic, or frankly, as romantic as the story of Srinivasa Ramanujan. He was a complete paradox. Here was this deeply spiritual man whose mind just operated on a level of pure, cold logic. A genius who could literally pull theorems out of his dreams, but who couldn't pass his basic college exams.
So that brings us to the big question, right? How on earth did a guy with almost no formal training, working all by himself in colonial India, see so deeply into the world of numbers that he would end up changing everything for the most advanced mathematicians of his day?
To really get a grip on Ramanujan's story, you've got to picture these two worlds that were just destined to collide, and they could not have been more different.
So, on one hand, you've got Kumbakonam. It's this vibrant, bustling temple town in South India. Think intense heat, deep spirituality, ancient traditions. And on the other, the cool, rational, stone courtyards of Trinity College, Cambridge. This was the intellectual heart of the British Empire, home to Isaac Newton, for goodness sake. One world was running on faith and intuition, the other was built on pure logic and proof.
Now, Ramanujan himself, he was born into the Brahmin caste, which is the highest in Hindu society. His whole life was soaked in religion. He would recite scriptures and even said that his incredible mathematical insights came to him directly from his family goddess. But this singular focus, it had a major downside. He was so obsessed with math that he failed all of his other college subjects. He lost his scholarship, and with it, any hope for a formal university degree. He was just left on his own, filling up these notebooks with thousands of theorems that he'd come up with himself.
And you know what? That could have been it. That could have been the end of the story. But then he did something incredibly audacious. In 1913, Ramanujan bundled up some of his work and mailed it to the one man in England who just might understand it, the famous Cambridge mathematician G.H. Hardy.
Hardy was absolutely floored. I mean, the pages were just filled with these theorems he had never seen before. Some of them seemed completely impossible. But, and this is a huge but, he also saw a massive problem. Ramanujan's work was like a string of incredible revelations with zero explanation of how he got there. He had all the answers, but he was missing the one thing that Western mathematics is built on, the proof.
So what even is a proof? Well, it's not just showing your work like in high school. It's a bulletproof, step-by-step argument that shows a statement has to be true in every single case. It's the safety net that stops mathematicians from making huge mistakes, like, say, accidentally dividing by zero. See, for Ramanujan, a theorem was true if he could feel it, if he could see it in his mind. For Hardy, it was only true if you could prove it step by logical step.
Okay, let's make this real for a second. Take a simple identity like this one. You could plug in numbers all day long and yeah, it would always seem to be true. But a proof is different. It means you have to manipulate the symbols themselves, following the rules of logic. You expand the terms, you simplify, and then, boom, you've shown with absolute certainty that it works every single time. That was the language Hardy spoke, and it was the language Ramanujan had to learn, and fast.
Hardy was totally convinced he'd found a once-in-a-generation genius. So he arranged for Ramanujan to come to Cambridge. He arrived in England in April of 1914. I mean, can you imagine the timing? He gets there just 4 months before the entire world is about to explode into the First World War.
And the culture shock, wow, it must have hit him like a ton of bricks. Ramanujan was a devout Brahmin, a strict vegetarian. He had to cook all of his own food in a country where wartime rationing was already making it hard to find anything. He was used to the warmth of South Indian social life, and suddenly he's in Cambridge, a place that ran on formal introductions and what a lot of people called the English chill.
Yeah, that quote from another student really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? That deep isolation Ramanujan must have felt. He was a complete stranger in a strange, cold land, a world away from his family and everything he knew. And so, he did what he always did. He just disappeared into his work, spending day after day alone in his rooms, totally lost in his numbers.
Now, don't get me wrong, the collaboration with Hardy was amazing. They produced some of the most original, mind-bending mathematics of the 20th century. But that combination of war, the loneliness, and the foreign climate, it all started to take a devastating toll on him.
And this timeline, man, it just lays out the tragedy so clearly. In 1918, he receives one of the highest honors in science. He becomes a Fellow of the Royal Society. And in that exact same year, completely overwhelmed by despair, he tries to end his own life by jumping in front of a London train. His greatest professional triumph and his deepest personal tragedy.
happening at the exact same time.
His health just completely collapsed. Back then, they diagnosed him with tuberculosis. But modern analysis suggests it was probably something else entirely. Maybe a severe vitamin deficiency from his strict diet and the famously gloomy English weather, all made 1,000 times worse by the crushing psychological stress of being so alone.
He returned to India in 1919. He was a celebrated man, but he was a broken one. A year later, he was dead. He was just 32 years old.
And for a long time, that was kind of the story. A cautionary tale about a genius who just burned too brightly, too fast. A master of pure math whose work was beautiful, sure, but, abstract, impractical. Even his biggest champion, Hardy, believed that.
Hardy famously wrote that the kind of pure mathematics he and Ramanujan did was a creative art, not a practical tool. He was actually proud that nothing he ever did would have any real-world use. But here's the kicker. On this one thing, the great logician turned out to be completely, spectacularly wrong.
And this is where the story gets just absolutely mind-blowing. Ramanujan's abstract formulas, the ones he scribbled in his notebooks a century ago, they became essential tools in fields he couldn't have even dreamed of. His work now helps us understand how materials behave at the atomic level, it's used in computer science, and get this, it even shows up in string theory and the study of black holes.
Ramanujan's story is just such a powerful reminder that genius can come from absolutely anywhere, often in the most unlikely places. It really makes you think, doesn't it? How many other brilliant minds are out there right now, just a letter or an email away from changing the world, if only we take the time to look?